Welcome to the Bible Odyssey. I'm so glad you're here. I want you to do something before we begin. Just this one thing. Let your body get completely comfortable. Pull the blanket up if you need to. Let your head sink into the pillow. Let your arms fall wherever they want to fall. There is nothing you need to hold on to tonight. Nothing you need to manage or monitor or keep in place. The night is yours now. The day is finished. Your mind is powerful. The profound truth about the mind isn't just a passive observer of reality. It's an active creator, shaper, and navigator of it. Every external achievement, relationship, invention, or transformation begins as a thought. Before the airplane, there was a mind imagining flight. Your thoughts determine your focus determines your actions, and your repeated actions determine your results. I want you to repeat these words 3 times. I believe I'm going to sleep well tonight. I believe I'm going to sleep well tonight. I believe I'm going to sleep well tonight. There is the power through the Word of God and neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on your thoughts, experiences, and habits. Every time you learn something new, practice a skill, or shift your perspective, you're literally changing the physical structure of your brain. Tomorrow morning, as soon as your eyes open, say to yourself, I believe I'm going to have a blessed day today. I believe I'm going to have a blessed day today. I believe I'm going to have a blessed day today. Great, let's dive in. And I have a story for you. It's a story about 4 friends, 4 ordinary people. We don't know their names. The story doesn't give us their names. And I think that's on purpose. Who loved someone so much that when the door was blocked, they went through the roof instead. Who carried their friend on a mat through the streets of Capernaum and up the outside of a house and across the roof and down through a hole they made with their own hands into the room where Jesus was teaching. 4 friends, 1 mat, 1 man who couldn't walk. And what Jesus said when he looked up through the dust and the debris falling from the ceiling and saw the 4 faces peering down at him through the hole. Well, that's the story. I've been sitting with this one for a long time. And what keeps stopping me, what I keep coming back to every time I read it, is the word Jesus used before he did anything else, before the healing, before the take up your mat, before any of the things we expect from a healing story. He looked at the man on the mat, and he said, Son, not, I will heal you, not, rise and walk, not even, your faith has made you well, the phrase he uses in other healing stories. He said, Son, the word of belonging, the word that says, you are known here, you are safe here, you are not a case to be addressed, you are a person who matters to me, and before I do anything else I want you to know that. Son, that word is for you tonight. Whatever you brought into this room, whatever the day was, whatever is still turning over in the back of the mind that you can't quite set down, the thing you're going to set down tonight, here, in the telling of this story. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to carry yourself anywhere tonight. Just let the story carry you. Close your eyes. And let me tell you about 4 friends and a man on a mat, and the most extraordinary act of faith in the Gospels, and the word that Jesus said before any of it began. Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now some teachers of the law were sitting there, thinking to themselves, "Why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" Immediately Jesus knew in his spirit that this was what they were thinking in their minds, and he said to them, "Why are you thinking these things? Which is easier, to say to this paralyzed man, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up, take your mat and walk'? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the man, "I tell you, get up, take your mat and go home." He got up, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." Let me take you to the house. Capernaum, a fishing town on the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee, small, close-knit, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business and the news traveled fast. Jesus had been coming and going from Capernaum for some time. Simon Peter's house was there. The synagogue where Jesus had taught with a new kind of authority was there. He had healed people there. He had eaten at tables there. He had come to know the faces of the town in the way that you come to know the faces of the place you return to, the particular greeting of the woman who ran the market stall, the sound of the children playing in the specific lane that leads to the lake shore, the quality of the light on the water in the early morning. He came home. That is the word Mark uses. Not, he returned to Capernaum. He came home. The fishing town on the lakeshore had become the place of return, the place where the welcome was already present, where the table was already set, where the arrival did not require explanation. There is something tender in that detail. The Son of God, the one who had no place to lay his head, had a home, a small one, in a fishing town on a lake in Galilee. And he came back to it, and the people heard. Word moved through Capernaum the way it always moved, door to door, market stall to fishing boat to household kitchen. Jesus is at the house. He is teaching, and the people came. All at once, in the way that the people of a small town come when the word spreads quickly, they came. The room filled first, then the doorway, then the space outside the door. People pressing in from every direction, wanting to hear, wanting to be near, wanting the possibility of the healing that had become associated with this particular person in this particular town. Until the house that was known as the place of welcome had become the house that could not be entered. The crowd that came seeking help had made it impossible for the most helpless to reach the helper. This is one of the tender ironies of the story, and it is worth sitting with rather than rushing past. The door being blocked is not a bureaucratic obstacle. It is the human condition rendered physically. The need pressing in from every direction until the very entrance to the healing is filled with need. All of the people at the door had real reasons to be there. None of them were wrong to come. And yet, the accumulation of the need had created an impasse for the person who needed the healing most and could do least about the impasse. 4 men came carrying a paralyzed man on a mat. 4 friends, 1 mat, 1 man who could not walk. They stood at the back of the crowd and looked at the door that was full, and then one of them looked up. Let me tell you what digging through a roof looked like. A first-century roof in Capernaum was not like a modern roof. It was a flat surface, branches and reeds packed over wooden beams, sealed with earth and clay, accessible from outside by a staircase or ladder on the exterior wall. Functional, ordinary, not designed for entry. To make a hole large enough to lower a man on a mat required removing the branches and reeds piece by piece, breaking through the packed earth, widening the opening until it was big enough for a man and a mat to pass through. It made noise, it made dust, it made debris fall into the room below, onto the crowd, onto the teachers of the law, onto Jesus himself, while the teaching was still happening. They didn't stop. I love this detail. The people in the room below could hear what was happening above them, the sound of the digging, the small pieces of the roof beginning to fall, the murmuring in the crowd. What is that? And the hole appearing, and the faces, and then, slowly, carefully, the mat beginning to descend. Nobody stopped them. Not Jesus, not the crowd, not the teachers of the law who would shortly have very strong opinions about what Jesus said next. The whole room watched 4 people lower their friend through a hole in the ceiling, and the tenderness of this act cannot be overstated. These 4 friends had no guarantee it would work. They had no promise that Jesus would respond to the interruption with healing rather than irritation. They had heard about Jesus, the healings, the teaching, the authority, but they did not know what he would do when a man on a mat descended through his ceiling. They did not know if the roof approach was the right approach. They only knew that the door was full and their friend could not walk, and they were not going to let the full door be the end of the story. So they opened the roof, with their own hands, in someone else's house, creating a mess that would take time and effort to repair, disrupting the teaching, making noise in the silence, for their friend, because the door was not going to be the end of the story. And the mat descended, and the 4 faces appeared at the edges of the hole, and Jesus looked up. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, son." Let that word sit for a moment before we move past it. Before the "your sins are forgiven," before the "get up, take your mat and walk," before any of the things we expect from this story, before the healing, before the controversy with the teachers of the law, before the man walks out in full view of them all, before any of it, Jesus looked at the man on the mat who had just descended through a hole in the ceiling, and he said, "Son," not "paralyzed man," not "you with the mat," not even your name, because the story doesn't give us his name, and perhaps the word "son" is the point precisely because it is not a name. A name identifies. Son declares. Son says, "You belong here. You belong to me. You are not a condition to be addressed or a case to be managed or a problem to be solved. You are son. Before I do anything else, I want you to know that." Think about what that man had been through to get to this moment. He had been on the mat. We don't know for how long, but long enough for the mat to have become the definition of his life. Long enough for other people to have a name for him that was not his name, the paralyzed man. Long enough for the condition to have become the identity in the way that conditions do when they persist. And then 4 friends had come and said, "We're taking you to Jesus." And he had let himself be carried through the streets, through the crowd, up the wall, across the roof, through the hole his friends made, completely dependent on 4 other people, unable to contribute to his own journey, being carried like cargo rather than walking like a person. And he lands on the floor of the house, in front of everyone, on his mat, unable to stand. And Jesus looks at him and says, "Son," the word of relationship before the word of restoration. This sequence is deliberate, and it is tender, and it is the whole of what Jesus is about. He could have healed him first. The healing would have been extraordinary. The crowd would have been amazed. The story would have been told for generations. The paralyzed man who walked out of the house in Capernaum. And it would have been wonderful. And it would have been incomplete. Because underneath the paralysis was a person. And underneath the person was an interior life that needed the belonging before it could receive the healing. And Jesus saw the underneath before he addressed the surface. "Son." The man on the mat who had been carried through the crowd and lowered through the ceiling was not, in Jesus' first word to him, the paralyzed man. He was son. And the son is the person who matters more than the condition. The son is the one who will walk out of the house carrying his mat, and who will carry it home, and who will set it down in the corner of the room, and who will wake up the next morning and the mat will still be there, evidence of where he has been, and he will walk past it and get on with his life, because the identity is restored. Son, before the healing. That word is for you tonight. Whatever mat you are on, whatever form the paralysis takes in your specific life, whatever door has been full and whatever roof has had to be opened to get you here, Jesus is looking at you through the hole in the ceiling, and the first word is son, daughter, you belong here. When Jesus saw their faith, not his faith, the paralyzed man's faith, their faith, the faith of the 4 friends who had carried the mat through Capernaum and up the exterior wall and across the roof and through the hole they had made with their own hands. Jesus looked up at the 4 faces in the opening above him, and what he saw was faith. This is one of the most tender theological details in the Gospels, and the detail most people skip over on the way to the healing. The healing was not precipitated by the paralyzed man's faith. The story does not tell us anything about what the paralyzed man believed. We do not know whether he was confident or doubtful, full of expectation or numb from years of disappointment. We know only that he was on the mat and his friends had carried the mat, and when Jesus saw what had brought the mat through the roof, he called it faith. The faith of the friends. The faith that carries when the person being carried cannot carry themselves. And the healing followed. Son, your sins are forgiven. Get up. Take your mat. The man on the mat received the gift of the friend's faith. His healing began not with his own belief, but with the belief of the people who loved him enough to carry him to the one who could help. And this is not a lesser form of the faith story. This is the full form. The community of the faith carrying the individual to the place of the healing is the church doing exactly what the church exists to do. The four friends are the church in miniature, the small community of people who will not let the impossible door be the final word, who look at the blocked entrance and look at each other and look at the roof. They were not spectacular. They did not pray an eloquent prayer before they went. They did not produce a theological justification for why their approach was valid. They dug through a roof. They held the ropes. They lowered the mat. And Jesus saw their faith. The seeing is the most important detail, not the size of the faith, not the quality of the faith, not the duration or the consistency or the track record. The seeing. Jesus looked up at four ordinary people with rope-burned hands and debris in their hair, and he saw faith, and the seeing produced the healing. For the night when your own faith cannot carry its own weight, when the interior resources have run out, and the prayer is thin, and the confidence is not where it used to be, the faith of the friends is available. The community of the people who have carried you to this room tonight, who have prayed for you in the seasons when you could not pray for yourself, who have held the ropes, their faith is real, and Jesus sees it, and the seeing is sufficient. The mat is in the room, you are in the room, that is enough. I tell you, get up, take your mat, and go home. 3 instructions, 3 gifts. Get up, the simplest and the most impossible. The man on the mat has not stood for, we don't know how long, but long enough. The condition that brought him to the mat has held him horizontal, and the instruction from Jesus is vertical. Get up. The specific, direct, completely non-negotiable command to do the thing the condition has been insisting cannot be done. And the man gets up. The healing meets the instruction meets the healing. The body that has been lying on the mat and has been carried on the mat and has just been lowered through the ceiling on the mat, that body stands in front of the crowd, in front of the teachers of the law, in front of the 4 friends looking down through the hole in the roof. It stands. Take your mat. This instruction is the one I want to stay with, because Jesus did not have to say this. He could have said, get up and walk. He could have said, get up and come follow me. He could have left the mat on the floor, a discarded artifact of the old condition, evidence that the condition is finished, the thing that carried him left behind as the person walks forward. He said, take it. Take your mat. The mat is the story. The mat is the specific, physical, completely real record of the years of the carrying. The surface that held the man through all the days of the condition, that was held by the 4 friends on the day they carried it through the crowd and up the wall and across the roof. The mat knows the weight of the person who lay on it. The mat has been in every room the condition has been in. And Jesus says, take it home. Not, leave it here as a monument to the healing. Not, discard it as you walk out as a dramatic gesture for the crowd. Take it. Carry the evidence of where you have been into the life that is now different. because the years on the mat are part of the person who is now walking, and the walking is more complete, more honest, more whole, for being done by the person who knows what the mat weighs and what it cost, and who the four friends are who held the ropes. The condition that defined the life becomes the testimony of the life. The mat that carried the man becomes the mat the man carries. There is something deeply tender in this instruction. Jesus is not asking the man to pretend the mat did not happen. He is asking him to carry the mat into the rest of his life as the thing it now is. Not the definition of who he is, but the evidence of where he has been and what the four friends did, and what Jesus said, and what happened in the house in Capernaum on the day they opened the roof. Go home. The third instruction is the direction and the destination. Not, go perform your healing for the wider world. Not, go to the synagogue and give testimony. Go home. The most intimate destination available, the specific household, the people who know him, the room where the mat will be set down in the corner. Go home. He got up, he took his mat, and he walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." And I imagine the four friends, still looking down through the hole in the roof, watching their friend walk out below them. And I imagine them looking at each other, and I imagine the thing that passed between them, wordless, in that look. Before we meet the three people in the story, I want to give you something practical, something you can take into tomorrow. The story of the paralyzed man is not only a theological story, it is a story about the life itself, about dependency and community and identity, and the relationship between what we believe about ourselves and what becomes available to us. The psychologists have been studying these things for decades, and what they have found maps remarkably closely onto what happened in the house in Capernaum. The first concept is the psychology of received identity. Research in developmental psychology consistently shows that the words spoken over a person by a trusted authority figure, particularly in moments of vulnerability, have a disproportionate effect on the interior working model the person carries about themselves. The term of address matters, not as flattery, as the declaration of who the person is in the eyes of the one who is speaking. When Jesus said son, he was not being polite. He was speaking into the working model. The man on the mat had a working model that was organized around the condition, the paralyzed man, the one who is carried, the one who cannot do what everyone else can do. And Jesus addressed the model directly, from a position of complete authority, with a single word that reorganized the whole thing. Son, not paralyzed man who will be healed, son who will walk. The practical application. Tonight, before you sleep, name yourself with the word Jesus used, not your condition, not your role, not what the day produced or failed to produce. Son, daughter, speak it quietly to yourself in the dark. Let it be the last identity word the mind holds before sleep. The research shows that the last words processed before sleep are disproportionately integrated into the working model during the consolidation that happens through the night. The word son spoken in the dark before sleep, is not a platitude. It is working on you while you sleep. The second concept is the psychology of social support and healing. The research on chronic illness, chronic pain, and chronic mental health conditions consistently identifies social support as one of the strongest predictors of recovery, stronger in many studies than individual willpower, individual faith, or individual coping strategies. The person who has people who carry them, who has the equivalent of the 4 friends, the community that holds the ropes, recovers faster, sustains recovery longer, and reports higher quality of life than the person who is managing the condition alone. The story knew this before the research did. Jesus healed the man because of the friend's faith. The community was not a nice addition to the individual's journey. The community was the mechanism of the access. And the practical application is this: let yourself be carried. The person who is currently on the mat, who is in the condition that the 4 friends need to carry them through, has a specific cultural pressure against the being carried. The culture values self-sufficiency, the managing of the condition alone, the getting better through personal effort and personal faith and personal discipline. The story says, let the friends carry you. The faith of the friends is sufficient. The healing comes through the community. Let yourself be carried. And if you are one of the 4 friends, your carrying is not incidental. It is the mechanism. Jesus sees it as faith. The research sees it as one of the most powerful forces for healing available to a human being. The rope in your hands is doing more than you know. The third concept is the psychology of narrative identity. The Take Your Mat instruction maps directly onto what the psychologists call narrative identity. The story a person tells about their life, the way the events of the past are integrated into a coherent self-narrative. The research shows that the healthiest people are not the people who have had the easiest lives. They are the people who have integrated the difficult chapters into a coherent story, who can say, this happened, and it was hard, and it is part of who I am, and I am not defined by it. Take Your Mat is the narrative integration instruction. Do not leave the condition behind as though it did not happen. Carry it as the evidence of where you have been, as the testimony of the friends who held the ropes, as the story of the day the roof was opened. The mat is the chapter that produces the testimony. The person who carries the mat is the person who has integrated the condition into the story of who they are, who walks out of the house not as the person who escaped the mat, but as the person who knows what the mat weighs and who carried it and what Jesus said. Tonight's practical application: name yourself son, daughter. Before you sleep, let the friends carry you. You do not have to get to the healing alone, and carry your mat. The story of the condition is part of the story of the person who walks. This story is the truth in life. Somewhere there is a person on the mat. Not dramatically, not the acute crisis that requires the obvious intervention. The quieter mat, the specific, interior, completely private condition that has been present long enough to have become the furniture of the life. the chronic health situation that has reorganized the calendar around appointments and management, the grief that has been carried for 3 years and that has become the background of the ordinary days, present in the morning before the day begins, present in the quiet after the day ends. The depression that comes and goes, but has come more than it has gone in the recent months. The specific weight of the person who gets through the days, but does not feel like they are living them. The faith that has been on the mat for a while, present, real, but not carrying its own weight the way it used to. This person is on the mat tonight, and the door is full. The door is full in the specific ways the door gets full in the ordinary life. The life is too busy for the interior work that needs doing. The energy that would be required for the getting better is exactly the energy the condition has taken. The circumstances are not right for the addressing of the thing that needs addressing. The children are young, or the work is demanding, or the season is wrong, or the money is not there for the help that would help. The door is full, and the person on the mat is lying in the room that is not the room where the healing is, hearing that Jesus is in Capernaum and unable to do anything with the hearing. The 4 friends are on the way. They may already be here, in the form of the people who have been praying. The friend who checks in more than they need to, who texts on the hard days without knowing they are hard days, but who somehow always texts on the hard days. The family member who shows up. The community that has been holding the ropes without being asked. The prayer that has been prayed over this person by the people who love them in the seasons when this person could not pray for themselves. The faith of the friends is real. Jesus sees it, and the mat is already being lifted. Name yourself tonight, son, daughter. Before anything else, you are known here, you belong here. The roof is being opened above you right now. There is a person who has been carrying someone else's mat for a long time, the caregiver, the parent of the child in the difficult condition, the child whose situation has reorganized the family's life around itself, the child who needs everything and whose needing of everything is not a criticism of the child, but simply the reality. The spouse of the person in the long illness, the friend who has been holding the ropes, not for a dramatic afternoon of roof digging, but for years. The sustained, daily, completely non-spectacular carrying of the person they love toward the presence of the one who heals. The carrying is real, and it is costly, and it does not always feel like faith. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like the weight of the mat at the end of another day of the carrying. The specific, private tiredness of the person who gives what they have to spare and then gives what they do not have to spare because the person they love needs it. The 4 friends who dug through the roof had to go home afterward. They went back to their houses and their nets and their families, and they slept the sleep of people who had given everything they had that day. The carrying is not sustainable on human strength alone. The carrying requires the same one who healed the man on the mat to sustain the people who carried him there. Jesus saw their faith. He sees yours. The carrying you have been doing, the years of the carrying, the specific, quiet, unglamorous faithfulness of the person who keeps holding the ropes when the holding is hard. That carrying is seen. It is faith. The research says it is one of the most powerful forces for healing available to a human being, and Jesus sees it as faith. And the seeing is the beginning of the sustaining. You are not doing this in your own strength. You are being sustained by the same one who empowered the 4 friends on the roof. Son, daughter. The one who carries is also known here, also loved, also received, also named. And there is a person who is both tonight, on the mat in one area of the life and carrying the mat in another. The person who is being carried through the health crisis and who is also carrying the marriage through the difficult season. The person whose faith is thin and who is also the friend who keeps showing up for the person whose faith is thinner. The person who needs to be lowered through the roof and who is also one of the 4 holding the ropes for someone else. This person is tired in a specific, doubled way. The tiredness of the person who is both the need and the resource, who gives what they do not have to spare because the person they love needs it, who manages the interior condition while managing the exterior carrying, who lies down at the end of the day carrying both the weight of the mat and the weight of the carrying, and who wonders in the dark whether either of them will be addressed or whether the carrying will simply continue on both sides indefinitely. Jesus is looking up through the roof at both, the man on the mat and the 4 faces above him. Both are seen, both are named, both are son, both are daughter. The mat is taken up by the one who was on it, and the 4 friends go home and rest, and they are sustained for tomorrow. Here is what the story of the paralyzed man does in a life that receives it and keeps returning to it. It forms the receiving of the relationship before the restoration. The person who is in the condition, who is on the mat in whatever form the mat takes, tends to approach the healing stories of the Gospels with a specific question. Will Jesus heal me? Will the restoration come in the form I am praying for? Will I walk? And this is a real and honest question, and the answer matters enormously. But the story of the paralyzed man has a question underneath that question. Before the healing, before the get up and walk, there is the Son, the word of relationship. And the story forms, over time, the capacity to receive the Son before the restoration comes, to let the belonging land before the walking begins, to hear the you are known here as the gift it is, not as a consolation prize for the healing that has not yet arrived, but as the primary gift, the gift that the healing is the expression of, the gift without which the healing would be merely physical. The Son is the deeper healing, and the person who receives the Son first, who lets the belonging settle into the interior before the restoration of the physical, discovers that the mat is less heavy, not because the condition has changed, because the identity has been restored. The person on the mat is son, is daughter, and the condition is real, and the prayer for its resolution is real, and the hope for the walking is real. But the belonging is already given, right now, in the mat, in the roof being opened. The story also forms the trust in the friend's faith. The person who cannot produce sufficient faith for their own healing, whose interior resources have run out, whose confidence in the prayer is thin, whose hope is present but fragile, needs to know that the faith of the friends is sufficient. Not as a theological proposition to be assented to, but as the lived experience of being carried. The person who has been carried by the faith of others, who has been in the room of the healing because someone else held the ropes, builds across the being carried the trust that the carrying is real and that it is seen. Jesus saw their faith. He saw the 4 faces in the opening. He saw the hands that held the ropes. He saw the faith that had carried the mat through the crowd and up the wall and across the roof and through the hole. He saw all of it. And the seeing was the moment the healing began. The faith of the friends was sufficient. It is sufficient tonight. And the story also forms the person who goes through roofs. The person who receives this story and carries it for long enough becomes, over time, one of the 4. The person who looks at the full door and looks at the roof, who carries the mat when the person on it cannot carry themselves, who makes the noise and the mess and the hole in the ceiling because the friend needs to be in the room and the door is not going to be the final word. The 4 friends were ordinary people. They were fishermen, probably, or tradespeople, or the specific ordinary people of 1st century Capernaum who had no particular distinction except that they loved their friend. And the love produced the roof. The love produces the roof, every time. And now, let everything grow very still. You are in your own room, your own bed, your own quiet dark, and the story has been told. And the 4 friends carried their friend through the crowd and up the wall and across the roof and through the ceiling and down into the room where Jesus was. And Jesus looked up and said, "Son, let the son be received." Before the healing, before the restoration, before the taking up of the mat, son, daughter. The word of belonging that arrived before anything else in the story arrives before anything else tonight. You are known here. You are safe here. You are not a condition to be addressed or a problem to be solved. You are the person Jesus is looking at through the hole in the roof. And the looking is the specific, tender, completely personal attention of the one who sees you. Not the category of person you are in, not the mat you have been carried on, but you, son, daughter. That word is yours tonight. Let it land. Let it go all the way in, before you sleep, before anything else. You belong here. Let the faith of the friends be received. The carrying that has been done for you by the people who have prayed, who have shown up, who have held the ropes in the seasons when your own hands could not hold them. That carrying is real. Jesus saw their faith. He sees the faith of the people who have been carrying you, and the seeing is sufficient. The mat is in the room. You are in the room, not because your faith was strong enough, but because the friends held the ropes, and the friends' faith was enough, and you are here, and that is enough. Let the mat be taken up. Whatever the mat is, the condition, the grief, the thin faith, the long year, it is being taken up tonight, not abandoned, carried. The thing that carried you becomes the thing you carry, not as the definition of who you are, but as the testimony of where you have been. The mat goes home with you, because the years on the mat are part of the story of the person who is now walking. And the walking is more complete, more honest, more real for being done by the person who knows what the mat weighs. Take your mat, go home. The home is this room tonight. The rest is here, and let the walking out be anticipated. He walked out in full view of them all, not quietly, not through a side door, not while nobody was watching, in full view of the crowd that had filled the house and blocked the entrance and watched the four friends dig through the roof. The walking out is coming. In the season it comes, in the form the healing takes. And the crowd that watches the walking out will say what the crowd said in Capernaum: "We have never seen anything like this." The mat carried home, the testimony walking out on its own 2 feet, the story that began on the mat ending in the walking. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Mark 2:5. I tell you, get up, take your mat, and go home. Mark 2:11. He got up, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. Mark 2:12. Sleep now. The friends carried you here. The roof is open, and the one who looked up through the ceiling is here. Jesus will carry you always.